Dear listeners, may this evening bring you warmth, light, and boundless love. I want to share with you a story that changed my life. A story filled with pain and doubt, but also hope. If you are here, then we share something in common. The desire to understand what happens inside us when the most precious thing we had is shattered. Please subscribe to the channel. Your attention is priceless to me. I remember that moment as if it were carved in the stone of my soul. Standing in the doorway of the living room, I froze, unable to believe my eyes. Before me unfolded a scene in which memories and betrayal painfully intermingled. My husband, my life partner, moving in synchrony with another woman. We were sitting on the couch we bought after the birth of our first child, and every morning ritual we once shared, every half-finished cup of coffee on the table, now seemed like a symbol of lost trust. His hand, once so familiar and tender, was caressing the thigh of a stranger, and in the eyes I knew so well, a cold calculation flickered. "How could this be?" I screamed inside, not giving myself even a second to process what was happening. My heart pounded wildly, and my thoughts swirled in a vortex of accusations and fear. In that moment, fragments of past days rushed back to me when I returned from a parent-teacher meeting, interrupting the teacher because my younger child had a fever, and when passing through the hall, I noticed a stranger's purse with a scarf bearing the monogram K. Those small details seemed insignificant then, but now they treacherously came together to form the picture of an affair I had never dreamed of. I remember that day when children's laughter echoed from outside where older kids were playing football. I felt that something was wrong. Perhaps it was a slight chill down my spine, a harbinger of the coming storm. But I could never have imagined that behind the cozy facade of our home lay such pain. I love this house, these moments filled with family warmth and care. And yet, my face wore a mask of calm, an attempt to hide the inner tempest. Sitting in the foyer, I tried to understand how it all happened. Why didn't I see it sooner? I wondered, replaying in my mind every word, every tiny detail that might have warned me of the impending betrayal. Every small sign now stood as a testament to how cleverly I had been deceived. I recalled that one time when I noticed his strange behavior, a quiet yet insistent voice inside me had warned, "Be careful, something is not right." But that voice of reason had been drowned out by the daily hustle, and I hadn't heard it in time. Maybe it was just a coincidence, I whispered to myself, trying to soothe my aching heart. No, it can't be. Everything is too clear, the cruel truth replied through my tears. But we've been together for so many years. I trusted him completely. My thoughts shifted from one accusation to another, like successive blows from a knife. The first hints had come long before that fateful evening. Several times I noticed him staying late at work, his phone vibrating quietly while he pretended to be busy, trying to hide his conversations. At the time, I brushed it off as the burdens of work, important meetings, and fatigue after a long day. Yet, with each subtle sign, something inside me began to scream, warning of the looming storm. One day, I accidentally saw a message on his phone that sent shivers through my entire body. The message was short, but its venomous meaning left me momentarily speechless. That same night, as I lay down to sleep, my mind was caught in an endless whirlpool. I couldn't find peace in sleep or wakefulness. Every minute felt like an eternity, filled with fear and the premonition of inevitable catastrophe. Recalling the early days of our love, I couldn't help but feel how our hearts once beat, as one when we first met. We met at a spring festival when I was full of hope and dreams for a happy future. He was charming, his smile seemingly capable of melting the ice in the coldest heart. Every first date was filled with sincerity, laughter, and promises that only happiness lay ahead. I remember how we strolled through a blooming park, discussing future plans and dreaming of a home filled with the laughter of our children. Those moments seemed endless, as if fate itself had decreed that our lives were forever intertwined. We grew up together, sharing both joys and hardships, supporting each other through sorrow and delight. Every day with him was like a new chapter in a book of adventures and warm memories. But beneath the surface of our long marriage, another story was hidden, a story I learned of too late. That day began like any other, with the usual morning rush, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, a hint of vanilla from my favorite mug, a gift on our 15th wedding anniversary. We sat together at the table, discussing plans for the day, oblivious to the trial that would soon shatter years of trust and love. At that moment, I was too busy caring for the children, planning household tasks, and dreaming of the future to notice the subtle signals of betrayal. By noon, however, I began to feel a dissonance, as if the melody of our family life had turned false. Every sound, every movement around me suddenly took on an ominous tone. I searched for explanations in the little things. Why was the phone in the kitchen left unattended? Why did the laundry basket hold sheets with stains that I initially blamed on the children's carelessness? These details seemed out of place, as though someone had intruded into our world and left their sinister traces behind. I remember how outside, children played while their joyful laughter contrasted sharply with the inner cry of pain and betrayal I felt. The cold wind, slipping through open windows, seemed like a harbinger of the coming storm. The scent of autumn leaves mixed with the freshness after rain, blending with the heavy, acrid aroma of unspoken truths. Everything around me whispered that our cozy world would never be the same. My thoughts mingled with memories of happier times, when I first felt love, when we laughed together, holding hands, dreaming of forever. Now all that seemed like an illusion, a beautiful wrapper concealing a harsh reality. After returning home early from a parent-teacher meeting, I encountered unexpected signs. In the foyer, my eyes caught sight of a stranger's purse with a scarf emblazoned with the monogram K, a symbol that had meant nothing to me before, but now filled me with cold distrust. I tried to convince myself it was a mere coincidence, but inside, a voice screamed, "This isn't your home, it's someone else's life." And then, standing in the doorway of the living room, I saw the painful truth. He saw me in the doorway. In his eyes, I saw not remorse but cold calculation. With him was another woman, whose touches left not only traces of passion on the couch, but indelible stains, like ink on a blank page of our history. She clutched at his dress as if trying to erase everything precious to me, leaving dark smudges on the cushion, a reminder of our quarrels when our son would scribble strange marks in his notebook after our arguments. "How could you?" My voice trembled as my hands flew to my chest, trying to grasp the slipping reality. "You don't understand." He tried to explain, but his words sounded as empty as an echo in an abandoned temple. "Don't understand. You betrayed me," I cried, feeling a fire ignite within me, burning away the remnants of trust and love that had once been sacred between us. In that moment, I realized that all our happy days and shared dreams were merely illusions. My heart screamed with pain, yet my mind struggled to find some anchor in the chaos of emotion. I felt something irreversible happening inside me, as if my life was shattering into thousands of fragments, each filled with bitterness and tears. That night, as the house sank into silence, I sat in the dark, clutching a pillow as if trying to hold on to a fragment of the happiness that was lost. My thoughts oscillated between the desire to forgive and the urge to tear everything down. I could hear the world outside living on, oblivious to the turmoil within, while inside only cold fear and pain reigned. How could I have been so blind? I wondered, sifting through every moment, every little detail that might have warned me. The once quiet inner voice had turned into a scream of accusation, demanding explanations, absolution, and truth. I asked myself, is it even worth forgiving? Or must I sever this bond once and for all, so I never have to feel this pain again? The image of the couch, once the center of our morning conversations, now became a symbol of our broken family, a monument to betrayal leaving wounds that might never heal. Each stain on the cushions, every scratch on the frame, spoke of how fragile our union was and how quickly what seemed eternal could be lost. In the days following that fateful night, I wandered through the corridors of my memory, searching for any answer in the labyrinth of pain and doubt. In the early hours, when the house still slumbered, I would sit by the window, watching as the first rays of sunlight gently colored the streets. Yet even that tender light could not dispel the darkness that had taken residence within me. I replayed every subtle detail of the past days, the strange glimmer in his eyes, the awkward pauses in conversation, the unexpected appearance of foreign items in our once familiar corners. Every little detail formed an unyielding mosaic of betrayal. I felt as though I could hear the whispers of the past, never allowing me peace, reminding me that the trust built over years was nothing but an illusion. Nights became the most tormenting. Lying in the dark, I became acutely aware of my own breathing, each second stretching into eternity. Thoughts of how I had ignored the warning signs over time haunted me. Inside, a dialogue raged. One part of me demanded answers and a chance to salvage what remained of our love, while another, filled with anger and bitterness, rejected any excuses and demanded retribution for the betrayal. I often whispered to myself, how could I have believed in his love? Even as I sought the inner strength to prevent myself from falling apart completely. One day, when my anxiety reached its peak, I resolved to confront him, to force a conversation that might shed light on the darkest corners of our shared life. We sat at the kitchen table, once the gathering place of our family. He remained silent, his eyes avoiding mine, as if trying to hide the truth I already knew. Tell me the truth, I pleaded softly, feeling tears well up in my eyes. His voice, usually confident and warm, turned hoarse and uncertain as he began to explain how doubts had slowly crept into his heart, how another woman had entered his life and filled a void I never even knew existed. His words fell like cold shards, shattering the fragile glass of my trust. We talked for a long time, in a silence broken only by sudden outbursts of emotion. He tried to justify himself, speaking of occasional mistakes and circumstances beyond his control, as if he had been unable to resist temptation. But each excuse struck me like a hammer blow to my already broken heart. How could you? I asked, scarcely believing my ears, as a sense of inevitable loss grew within me. Every word he spoke echoed in my soul like the relentless strike of a hammer. The early signs, which I once dismissed as trivial coincidences, had now become undeniable proof of betrayal. I recalled the day I found his phone left on the table and glimpsed a message that had escaped my notice until the crushing weight of betrayal overwhelmed me. I understood then that what had seemed like minor misunderstandings were, in fact, deliberate steps leading to this fateful rupture. I felt the past looming over me like a shadow, and every new day brought further painful revelations. Those moments that once brought joy now felt like mere illusions. Memories of our first meetings, how we laughed, dreamed of a future, and walked hand in hand through the park where every tree bore witness to our love, now took on a bitter hue. I tried to pinpoint the moment when everything changed, when our paths finally diverged. Perhaps it was when I saw that unfamiliar purse with the protruding scarf, or that evening when I noticed his gaze lock with that of another, filled with a hidden calculation. Each of these moments, once insignificant, now form pieces of a puzzle that revealed a devastating truth. One day, I decided to follow his routines, discreetly trying to learn where he spent his time, where he went, leaving me alone with my thoughts. That decision was excruciating, for every minute of such observation poisoned my soul. I would slip out quietly, doing my best to remain calm, even as my heart pounded like crazy. My eyes searched for answers in every detail. The way he left the house, who greeted him around the corner, the sound of his footsteps on empty streets. Every time I saw him, my being shrank in torment, and an inner voice pleaded, "Run! Leave! Don't let yourself suffer any longer." Yet I remained, chained by the duty and love that had once bound us together. Even the children seemed to sense the change. My eldest son, always so observant, suddenly became withdrawn and silent. He no longer laughed as genuinely as before, and even his glances sometimes carried an inexplicable melancholy. My daughter, once radiant with joy, now avoided bright colours, refusing to wear blue, a colour that once symbolised tenderness and the morning light. Their small souls became fresh wounds on my heart, and every sigh of theirs deepened the pain I tried desperately to hide behind a mask of calm. Day by day, I sank deeper into my thoughts, trying to understand how everything that once seemed eternal turned out to be an illusion. I wandered through the rooms of our home, touching the furniture that now stood as mute witnesses to the years gone by. The couch, which had once been the centerpiece of our morning conversations, now only evoked memories of unresolved conflicts and lost trust. I could no longer see in it the joy I once felt, only bitterness and pain. I began to spend long hours alone, pouring my thoughts into a journal in an effort to find answers to the agonizing questions. How does one forgive such betrayal? I wrote in one entry, feeling as though the ink on the page was imbued with my tears. Every page brimmed with both despair and hope. I dreamed of the day when I could let go of the past and find within myself the strength to move forward, though the fear of betrayal kept me tethered to my suffering. Time seemed to crawl, and each day I felt a strange, almost imperceptible change stirring within me. Was it forgiveness, or merely an acclimation to the pain? I couldn't tell. Sometimes, in the stillness of the night, I heard a voice whisper, "Every wound is a lesson. Every pain is an invitation to begin anew." Those words offered me quiet solace, even if the next day the pain returned with renewed force. Then, one twilight, as the fading light painted everything in warm, golden hues, I stepped outside. It seemed that the cool evening air might disperse the fog of my thoughts. I walked slowly along familiar streets, where every tree and every sound reminded me that life goes on despite all the losses. In my heart, I sought a sign, a beacon pointing me toward a new life. But all I found was the reflection of my weary face in shop windows and the somber eyes of passers-by. That evening, I met an old friend, a confidant with whom I had once shared both joy and sorrow. Noticing my state, she quietly asked, "How are you, dear?" I couldn't hide my pain, and my words flowed like a gentle stream, revealing the unbearable weight of betrayal. She listened without interrupting, and then she said, "You must give yourself a chance to heal. No matter how deep the wound, it will mend with time, and you will learn to trust in love again." Her simple, sincere words sparked a glimmer of hope within me. Perhaps forgiveness wasn't a sign of weakness, but a step toward a new life, a return to myself. Every morning, I established a ritual, brewing a strong cup of tea, sitting by the window, and watching the city wake up. In those small moments, I sought answers, as if each drop of tea could reveal the meaning behind loss and the possibility of a new beginning. I learned to listen to my inner voice again, to distinguish genuine desires from intrusive thoughts. Sometimes I asked, "Who am I without this pain?" And the echo that answered reminded me that I was strong, that within me burned an unquenchable fire, capable of withstanding even the most devastating betrayal. Over time, the idea began to take root. Perhaps it was time to let go of the past, to free oneself for the future. I started attending yoga and meditation classes, hoping to strike a balance between body and spirit. With each slow, mindful movement, I felt the tension gradually easing, and a new feeling arose within me, the realization that life, despite the pain, continued to offer chances for healing. These practices became more than just physical exercises. They were true therapy, allowing me to look deep within myself and rediscover that spark that could ignite hope. New encounters also brought their own challenges. At a casual gathering with friends in a cozy cafe, once a place where we laughed and dreamed, I met someone whose words and gaze awakened long-forgotten feelings inside me. He didn't try to console me with clichés. His presence was quiet, almost imperceptible, but sincere. We talked about life, about pain, and about how hard it can be to forgive. In his voice, I heard understanding that gave me the strength to continue. He shared how he had faced similar trials, which had made him sensitive and attentive. In his stories, I began to see the possibility that someday my pain might give way to a fresh start, that within every fracture lay the seeds of future happiness. Days turned into weeks, and gradually I noticed light returning to my soul. I no longer felt imprisoned by the past, even though the scars remained. Sometimes at night, waking in the darkness, I caught a glimpse of my former self, but now with the clear understanding that every loss is a lesson and every pain an invitation to change. One evening, sitting on the porch under a starry sky, I realized maybe it's time to forgive, not for him, but for me. This thought, once unthinkable just months ago, now became a guiding star pointing toward a new beginning. I began writing letters that I never sent, letters that helped me make sense of everything I had experienced. In them, I poured out my fears, my loss, and how betrayal had challenged me, yet also provided a chance to learn to love myself anew. Sometimes I reread them, as if conversing with myself, with each line affirming, "I deserve happiness, I can find the strength to move forward." These letters became a quiet ritual, a reminder that even the deepest wounds can reveal a spark for a new beginning. After many weeks of struggling with myself, I finally reached a decision. I was at a crossroads. Continue clinging to the past where pain and betrayal held me captive, or take a step toward an uncertain future, free from the old chains. Sitting alone in my study, I looked at a photograph of happier times with my husband and felt a quiet flame of determination ignite within me. "I let you go," I whispered, as if bidding farewell not only to the image of the one who had hurt me, but also to the part of me that had allowed him into my life so completely. This decision did not come suddenly. It was the result of long conversations with myself, days filled with tears and painful reflection. I understood that forgiveness does not mean forgetting or excusing. It means freeing oneself from the constant burden of pain and opening the door to something new. And even though the fear of the future still tormented me, I knew that within me lay a strength capable of overcoming even the hardest trials. Each new day brought small victories, like petals gathering into a bouquet of a new life. I learned to see things differently. Every morning, as I awoke, I thanked fate for the chance to start over, for the opportunity to rebuild my soul, and for the strength that had helped me survive the worst betrayal. Even in moments of weakness, I remembered how I once sat by the window, watching the first rays of sunlight, and knew that life, like the dawn, always brings hope for a new day. Gradually, I began meeting people who not only understood my pain, but also helped me heal. Among them was someone whose kindness and sincerity slowly filled the void left by betrayal. His presence gave me confidence that despite all the trials, there is still room in the world for true love. We spent long evenings together discussing books, movies, and the simple joys of life, and his gentle voice and calm eyes reminded me that even after the darkest night, dawn always follows. Day by day, I felt my soul regaining balance. I learned to accept my pain as a part of who I am, not rejecting it, but learning to live with it, transforming it into a source of strength and wisdom. I realized that no matter how cruel the betrayal, it cannot destroy someone who can forgive and love oneself. The journey was difficult and winding, but every step brought me closer to inner harmony. On one rainy autumn day, as the rain washed the dust from the streets, I looked in the mirror and saw the reflection of a woman who had been forever changed. In her eyes was no longer the blind faith that once lit up my face. Instead, there was a deep wisdom born from pain and finally freed from the shackles of the past. I understood that my life was not a tale of betrayal, but rather the story of how I found the strength to rise, forgive, and believe in the miracle called life. And now, with time past, as my wounds have healed, and the scars serve only as reminders of all I endured, I realized that everything that happened led me to a deeper, more genuine love. The love of myself, and a world that, despite all its trials, still offers solace and hope. I discovered the courage to start anew, to let go of old grievances and embrace the future with an open heart. Today, looking back, I understand that every hardship, every betrayal, has become an essential part of my journey. I am grateful that through the pain I learned to cherish every moment of happiness, the smile of my children, the gentle whisper of the wind through the window. Life goes on, and in its endless flow, I found a new understanding that even after the darkest night, dawn will always come. Thank you for joining me on this journey, for listening to my story until the end. I sincerely wish for each of you to find the strength to forgive, to renew yourselves, and to believe in love and the promise of new beginnings. May your lives be filled with light, warmth, and genuine joy. I promise that there are many more pages ahead where I will share my discoveries, moments of vulnerability and triumph, and perhaps together we can learn that even the deepest wounds eventually heal, leaving only gentle scars that remind us how we have grown and changed. Each one of us deserves happiness, and despite all the trials, I believe that everything happens for the best. Life teaches us lessons, and sometimes it is through pain that we gain the strength to move forward, build new bridges, and open our hearts to the future. May your homes always be filled with love and understanding, and may every loss give way to new joy and a renewed belief in the good. I am grateful for your attention, for walking with me on this difficult yet beautiful journey back to myself. May every day be meaningful, every encounter bring light, and every tear shed in sorrow transform into morning dew that offers hope. And remember, even when it seems that the whole world has grown dim, within each of us burns a spark capable of lighting up the darkest night. Thank you for being here, for listening, for your faith and love. I wish you endless happiness, true love, and prosperity. May only bright days lie ahead, and may every new dawn give you the strength and inspiration to live, to love, and to forgive. If you've read these lines, know that every one of my stories, every experience, is a step toward becoming stronger, wiser, and more open to the world. I sincerely hope that my story has given you even a small measure of comfort and the belief that after every dark night, dawn always breaks.